All right, so thank you for attending tonight's webinar. Basically, I just want you guys to know how we handle things here since we have members and we have non-members. What we're going to do here today is if you have a question for me, type it in the box. I'll see it and I'll answer your question. So ask me whatever you wish. And also, if you would like to use your mic to talk to me, just type into your box, to the chat box, talk. And then I will open up your mic and you'll be able to talk to me. So you'll be able to we'll be able to communicate via regular talking like we're on a telephone. All right, so that's what we do here. First thing we always do is we go over the news because when you're entering a trade, you want to know what's going on with the news, or if you're going to be in a trade, if you're in a trade or if you're getting into a trade, you want to know what's going on with the news because the news affects the market. So we're more concerned about the high impact news because there's news every day. So the high impact news is what moves the market. So we want to be aware of those and those events. So I'm going to start with Thursday since today is the day and then tomorrow's the last day of trade. And usually most of my good trades are, like I said, I have some good trades on Thursday, but looking at the news for Thursday, it looks like we don't have to worry about anything now. So we had everything this morning up till 11. So tomorrow you have news at 8:30, which is going to really move the market, which is going to be the CAD and the US dollar. You have events, 3 events for each, so be careful if you're trading tomorrow. I don't really trade on Fridays, so not much for me to really look at or talk about. All right, so I'm going to be using a mini account, which is a $100 account that I have. The reason I'm using a $100 account is because I opened up a $100 account to help members realize that you can increase a small account. It doesn't matter if the account is small or big. So what I wanted to show members is that if you can first increase a $100 account and then maybe increase it to 200 and then 300 and so forth, then you should be able to increase a larger account, a couple $1,000s or whatever. But if you cannot increase a $100 account, then you probably shouldn't be trying to trade thousands of dollars in an account. So I wanted to show members to give them confidence that yes, you can trade a $100 account and make profit. So some members can't afford to put thousands of dollars into the market, but you can still make some money in the market, okay? So I'm going to show you those trades right now. And I just opened this account up a couple months ago and I haven't used it a lot, so I only have really 6 trades on there. But let me show you these and then we'll get started with the charts and everything. Okay, so let me see where this is. My Trade Explorer is right here. All right, so you could see I have $140 in there right now, and it's not showing any trades for today or this week or this month or this year yet because I haven't made a trade this year. None this month, none this week, okay? So all time, you could see what I'm doing all time. You can see what it says all time, but that's not right there. So we'll go look at some of the trades. There's only 6 trades in this account, but of those trades, you can look at my trade report, okay? So here's my trade report. $139 right now. You could see everything here that shows you what I've done. You can see my trades. I had 6 trades and I lost 1 trade and I won 5 trades, and you could see my win rate is 83% currently. Now the more trades I make, it probably won't stay at 83, but I don't want to go lower than 50. If I can be a 50% trader, then I could be profitable because I should be winning. When I win my trades, I should be making more than I'm losing. I don't want to win, 25 or 100 pips and then lose 200 pips. I want it to be the opposite way. So money management is going to be the main thing for your account, for your trading account. So you could see what I've been doing, and you could see the trades that I've had. These are the trades, and here's all the information about the last couple trades I made with this account. So I've made 6 trades. I've increased that up to $139, and I'm going to show you that I'm going to increase it up to 200 and so forth and continue to increase it. because I want you members to realize that you can do this also. So if you see me doing it, maybe it'll give you some confidence. All right. So that's what we have here. Let's see if there's anything else you could see. The trade graph is no good. Let's look at the trade list. This is the trades I made, so you can see what I did. All right. And that's really it right now. So I'll start to trade this again. I haven't been trading it at all really. So I want to start trading it again to let you guys know and see what we do. All right, so I'm going to go right to the charts and we'll get started. If you have any questions, just let me know. Let's see, I do have some questions here already. Usually I don't get too many questions, so. So I don't know, someone's saying they can't hear me. So can everyone hear me? Can you guys hear me? Somebody type a yes, please, to let me know. Okay, thank you. All right. So I'm going to get here with the, we're starting off with the Aussie yen. So Aussie yen, what I like to do, I like to start off with the daily time frame. We keep everything Ichimoku pretty much unless Ichimoku can't be used in a situation where there is like a ranging market. Ichimoku is not going to do too well. So our main thing is here is fractals are one of the main things that we look at and trade. So looking at this Aussie yen, you can see we're breaking bull fractals all the way to this point. So when we're breaking bull fractals, I'm going to go over this really quick for people that aren't really part of the site here. So here's the bull fractals, okay? And I'm going to move that line to every bull fractal that we break. We broke the bull fractal right here. Then we move up to these bull fractals. We broke that bull fractal. Then here's bull fractals again, broke those bull fractals. And then here's the last bull fractal right there. We have yet to break that fractal, right? But in the meantime, as we were breaking bull fractals, we were not breaking any bear fractals. All right, so this was news here, so we can't really, that changes the whole outlook of the market. But if you look at most of the pairs, it's going to be pretty much the same way. So here's the bear fractals. Then we had the news event happen here, which violated these fractals. So you would have been taken out of a trade here, though. All right, but as the market moves higher, it doesn't barely break any bull fractals. You follow the market, it doesn't break bear fractals if it's moving to the upside. So if we're moving to the upside, we're not going to violate these bear fractals. So we can use that as a guide. Okay, but then the market comes down, violates a bear fractal. That's a sign for me. That's the first sign that we violated this bear fractal. We have not violated a bull fractal, and we made another bull fractal lower than the previous bull fractals. All right. So this fractal was higher, then we made this fractal, which was the highest, and then we made one lower. Okay, so that's a sign for me. That's the first sign for me. And I always tell guys on that first break you take, all right, it's called first break you take that trade on the first break. Because if you're in a trend and you're watching these fractals, and I'm going to show you on almost every pair that we look at tonight. All right, so what I'm looking at now is with Ichimoku on the daily time frame. So my bias is bearish right now. All right, and I'm going to tell you why. Because see the volatility in this cloud, this big thick cloud, that's all volatility here. Volatility letting me know that this market is a volatile market right here. All right, so that's one big thing. All right, you got a TK crossover right here that's bearish. Chiku span now is inside price, which is not too good. That means range, okay? And with that volatility, you may see that also. Another thing is we didn't get our crossover, but we have signs of weakness. So weakness is, and I wouldn't be surprised if the market did reach this point ever again, but I think we would have to violate this fractal, and I don't see that happening, because if we're going to violate that fractal, then that means the market's going to move higher, but we will have a double top at that point more than likely. All right, so what I'm looking at right now is that the market failed to violate the Kijinsen right here. See the blue line, the Kijinsen, as we had to cross over. The market failed to violate that Kijinsen. That's a sign of weakness. Then we had a bounce off of that level and the market's starting to fail. Now we may see some ranging here, and it's going to be hard to get your trade in, because I'm looking at violating that level here. If we violate that fractal level here, that's a big sign that the market is going to the downside. All right, so fractals are major here Guys, you know, when we have our course, we look at, one of the main things we look at is fractals, and I tell you everything about these fractals and how to trade them. So that's one thing that we're going to be looking at and looking to trade. So I like to start out looking at the daily time frame, and we're going to go to the 4-hour time frame to see if we could catch any kind of trade right now. Right, and I like to follow the bias of the daily. Now, yes, the market has been moving higher, but I'm looking at the immediate structure of the market, and I follow the structure of the market based off of these fractals. You're breaking that bear fractal, the market is now becoming bearish. Okay, you haven't broken a bull fractal. Now we could see if we range, and we could also tell if we're going to range because we'll have fractals within fractals all over the place. All right, and then that changes the structure, so we'll know what we're doing. So I'm going to go to the 4-hour time frame. I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to show you how you can be very safe with your trading if you just follow these fractals. So we're in the 4-hour time frame, and the fractals don't change no matter what. It could be the 4-hour time frame, the daily time frame, the 1-hour time frame, the 1-minute time frame. These fractals are still going to help you trade. All right. So I was saying I'm looking for the market to drop to the downside. Now we violated a bull fractal here. All right, and then we made higher fractals, but then we violated the bear fractal here. So this is following in line with that range market. Ichimoku will do me no good in a ranging market. Now I'm not going to consider this a ranging market on the 4-hour time frame, and I'm not sure of the direction of the market on the daily time, on the 4-hour time frame here that we're looking at. So if I was looking at this time frame right now, I wouldn't be trading right now because I don't see any setup for me to trade. The market's not doing what I think it would do based off of the daily. So I would probably leave this pair alone for now, because what we like to do is when we're not sure of the market, we box it in, but there's nothing to box in here because it's pretty sporadic. All right. So can you trade when you see a red candle and a green candle and then 2 reds and then 2 greens? Can you trade that? That's ridiculous. We just wait for the market to give you some sure signs. So I don't see anything that I could count on right now. I don't see a setup for a bounce off of the Kumo here, and I don't see a setup for anything short right now. The best picture that I get is this daily level here based off of the daily. So that's what I'm looking at right now. I can see the picture better on the daily. Okay, so I want to see if the market's going to come back to this point. So my trading levels will be if we violate Kijinsen up here. All right, or if we get down to this point and we violate the fractal, because the market starting to violate bear fractals, so we should see a bear fractal break. So my thing is we may see something like this, and I'll draw it out for you. We may see the market hang around here and not do much, then get to these points, then finally it may break this level, and that's when we're going to be looking to trade to the downside. And then we'll talk about our targets once we get to that point, and I'll send these alerts out to you to let you see the trade setup. Okay, so that's going to be looking at the Aussie yen. Do I have any questions about this trade setup, or basically about this pair really? What do I mean when I talk about violating a fractal? Well, okay, I'll talk about it really quickly. A violation is if you close above or below. That's a violation. Not if you spike below, you know, because you could have spikes above or below, but that's not a close below. Now you will, if you have a stop loss there, you'll get spiked out, but this was news right here. Usually you're not going to have that. A lot of times the market doesn't even come back to your fractal level. All right, so a violation is if it closes below. When you're trying to get into a trade, you're concerned about the close below or the close above, because that's what triggers you off. Now, if you're talking about stop loss, then yeah, you're gonna have a problem if you get spiked. But if you're talking about getting into a trade, if I say, look, we're going to trade because we get that fractal break right here, and then this market spikes way down here, if you enter that trade, you would have lost, because you need this to close below this level, and it never closed below. So let me make sure you're looking at what I'm showing you. This is the bear fractal here, and I'm talking about if we were going to go short, we say, well, we're going to trade on that first fractal break. Here comes the market, it breaks that fractal, but it doesn't close below it. It closes back above it. We can't enter the trade based off of that. All right, now some people will trade off of the level, and I don't trade the level most of the time. I trade on the close of the candle. So if this candle would have closed below this point, below this fractal here, somewhere down here, I would have taken the trade short. But since it did not violate. All right, so you don't take that trade. That's what the violation is. Violations are for trade purposes, so you can understand that. I don't use fibs that much. I mean, I have everything I need. I don't need more stuff on my chart. I have everything I need. You don't see my pointer, but do you see what I'm showing you when I draw it in? You guys see my pointer? Somebody doesn't see it. Does anybody else see it? Okay, Sylvia does. A couple other people do. So that may be your, sometime you got to log out and log back in and things will work for you. All right, so I'm going to move on because I could spend days on one pair. Trust me, I can really spend days on one pair. I'm not going to spend time looking at pairs that we don't have anything to trade, where it's very sloppy. The price action is sloppy. We can't enter the trade. We don't understand where to get into the trade. I'm not going to really talk about it. Now, this is a bearish channel. All right, so when I look at this bearish channel, the market's moving to the downside, but that doesn't mean I have a trade. We just kind of see what the market's doing, but I really don't have a setup here. All right, so I'm not going to really talk about that daily time frame, but it's pretty much bearish because you could see we're moving to the downside based off of that bearish channel. So now if I don't have anything to really understand what's happening based off of the daily as far as getting into the market or where to get into it. So I want to go higher for a minute and look at the weekly and see if it could give me a clue. And then we'll go to our 4-hour time frame, which is my trading time frame. So the weekly kind of also gives me a clue to where the market may go. So if I was getting into a trade, I'm going to first look at my levels, look for support and resistance levels. That's where I would trade to next. That would be where I would trade to. If I got into a trade now, that's where I'm going to trade down to. All right, but I don't see anything on the weekly that really sets me off. So go into this 4-hour. This 4-hour is setting me off. This is what I like. I see something here, and it's not going to be based on Ichimoku. It's going to be based on the market. Now, what I told you again, the market violated this bull fractal right here. You see the bull fractals. That was the first violation. Because if we go back and look, I'm going to show you this on every single pair. Then you're going to start to believe me. All right. There's bull fractals. There's bull fractal. There's bull fractal. There's bull fractal. Has the market ever violated the bull fractal all the way down to this point? If the market's not violating bull fractals, then you shouldn't be trading to the upside. You shouldn't be trading long because you're not violating bull fractals. You're violating bear fractals. Has the market violated that bear fractal, that bear fractal, that bear fractal, this bear fractal? These bear fractals, has the market violated those levels? Yes, the market has violated those levels, and that's what means you should be trading to the downside. The market is showing you the direction to trade, but most traders think they know them and see something themselves and say, well, I think it's going to do this. Well, the market's showing you. The fractals are your map. Trust the fractals. You can see there what the market was doing. I base my trades on that. Here we broke this fractal, this bull fractal. Broke it right here with a big candle, and then now you can see the market's sideways, right, for the last little bit here. So what we like to do all the time when we get a market like this, because we can't trade this because we don't know what it's going to do. So I always teach people here to do this: box this market in and then decide after it violates your box. So we're going to box it in, and usually we don't have a big box as this, but since the market's given us this, we're going to take it. I'm not going to worry about this pair till I get a violation of one of these levels outside of the box, because therefore it'll violate a bear fractal here or violate a bull fractal up here. That way I'll start to know what the market's going to do. And then I could get into a trade. Now I would be looking at it bounce off of this level here, but we already had the bounce and then we pulled back. All right, so I would have entered a trade off of the bounce of the cloud here, but we had that trade and then it pulled back. It wouldn't have been a good trade right now. I mean, it'd been a good trade, but not for much. All right, so then the market pulled right back, and now I want to see what it's going to do because it's not really giving me a direction, right? So if it's not giving you a direction, guys, don't trade it. All right, so just wait for the break of these levels, and that's when you get interested. So therefore, we don't have much to talk about on that pair. Let's see, do I have any questions here? Would I look for inside trading opportunities? Not with this because it's too sloppy. Look at the market here. This is why I say don't trade it. You have a red candle, a green candle, a red candle, a green candle, 2 reds, 3 greens, 2 reds, a green. It's not giving you anything. Look at that candle for candle. Can you understand what the market's doing when you see red, green, red, green, red, green? No. So I just leave that alone. All right, I probably could go down to a lower time frame and get a couple pips out of there, 10 or so, but I don't trade like that. All right, but yeah, no, I'm not going to look for any inside opportunities right here. Um, so you're asking me, have I done any past webinars that you can view where I focus on fractals and where you can learn? Well, I have one on YouTube, but other than that, everything else is in the course, all the fractal stuff and everything else like that. That's all covered in the course. But I'm gonna give you a little bit of it right now, so maybe you'll catch on to some of it, and it'll help you out. All right. So yeah, we leave this a pair alone because I mean, guys, when we get into trades, we want it to be high probability trades. That's not a high probability trade, so we could leave it alone. So now, for some of you guys, we had a webinar a little while ago, and it was based off of supply and demand. So we were marking some levels. So we have those set, and we're going to leave them in there to see if what the market does when it gets to those points. So because we're testing out our supply and demand trading, so we want to wait. So these are some demand levels that we have here, and we're going to see. As you can see, I made this level, this demand level here, where the market dropped, and then the market came back, bounced off of that demand level, and dropped to the downside. So okay. And so this is going to be a supply level. Sorry, I meant to say supply. This is going to be a supply level. The market bounced off of that level and dropped to the downside. But anyway, back to what we're looking at with our charts. I'm going to take these off. I'll put these back on another time because I know exactly where they are. So I want to focus on what we see here. So what we see here, let me move this line off for a second. I have this flat Kijinsen marked for a purpose. When we had our last webinar, the market was down here. I told you that the market was going to go one of two places, all right? And then we could look to trade it back to the downside. Now we have to wait and see. So we marked this level because when we go to the 4-hour time frame, we want to see this daily Kijinsen because it's going to be a strong level. All right, so remember I told you about the fractals. Well, this was sloppy here, so you can't start your judgment here. This is a sideways market. You don't worry about the fractals in a sideways market. It's telling you what it's doing anyway. It's ranging, and it's a sloppy range. I can't trade that sloppy range. All right, but when we had this fractal break here, the market dropped down, and we also trade fractal levels. All right, so we trade the fractal breaks, but we also trade fractal bounces. I'm going to show you the market does this most of the time. The market violates the fractal level here, and it violated this level too. So we had a violation here, then we had a violation here. So the market moves up and violates this fractal level here, this bear fractal level with this candle right here. So when the market does that, I either enter my trade short here, or I'm going to wait for the market to come back to this fractal level. So what we do, we make these zones. We make these fractal level zones because they have wicks on them. Sometime if they don't have a wick, we don't have to make a zone. But I'm going to show you why we make this a zone and why we look at these levels. All right, so looking at this, I made this zone based off of this candle here. When the market violated this level, I'm looking for the market to come back to that fractal zone and trade to the downside. Everything's bearish on Ichimoku, okay? Everything's bearish, daily time frame. It's telling me which direction to go. Now the market may violate because we violated this level right here. We violated this fractal. So the first break you take, we would have traded to the upside. When I told you to trade this to the upside, where did I tell you to trade this to? I told you to trade it to this zone or to this Kijinsen. Well, we're now at Kijinsen, so the market has to do something. It has to let us know what's going to happen. So there's a couple things that we're going to look for. So first of all, if we find that price action entry up here, that's giving us a short trade, we're going to take the trade because that means Kijinsen's holding, right? So we could trade that short, but we may have issues because we may bounce right back off of this fractal here. So let's go back to that fractal. We violated this fractal. So when we get into a trade, we're also going to look at that because we're not sure what's going to happen here. So let's draw this out. We had the break here. So what we're looking at is the market moved up. I told you to get in a trade down here and then look for this area or this area here where the Kijinsen was. The market came right back to that area. So now we may get a pullback only, and it could be a pullback to this fractal level. So if we trade it short right now based off of our price action entry, and we want to go to the 4-hour to get that, we're going to trade to this point down here, because at this point, this is where the market may move back to the upside. So we'll start to see, we'll know better, because we'll have a 1, a 2, and then our 3. If we get a 3 there, so we have a 1 fractal, which we have already. We don't have a 2 fractal yet. We need to get that 2 fractal. And then if the market pulls back to this point, we'll have a 3, and then we'll be clear cut understand that the market's going to move to the upside. All right, and that's what we would look for. Now, currently where we are, we're going to look for a bounce unless the market violates this Kijinsen. So we're going to wait for the price action entry and then trade this to the downside. If we get a violation, then all bets are off. We have to wait for another level, because what we do here, we trade levels. All right, so fractals are going to be one level, Kijinsen is going to be another level, and a nice trending market is going to be Tenkan-sen, the green line. So we'll trade this blue line, we'll trade this green line, we'll trade these fractal zones that we make, and we'll trade the cloud, got the cloud, and then we have our support and resistance levels that we make on our own. All right, but those things are high probability trade areas and levels. So we're going to go to the 4-hour time frame and look at this. So let's go to the 4-hour, see if we could see what the market's doing. So we always talk about price getting far away from Kijins, and that's letting you know that the market's, you're overextended basically. All right, so you're out of equilibrium. The market always wants to be in equilibrium. It likes to be closer to Kijinsen. Kijinsen and Tenkan-sen do not want to be far apart, and they are far apart. Look at your charts here. Look at how far they ever get. They don't really like to get too far apart, and when they do, they pull back. They stay close to each other. All right, well, here they got kind of far apart, so the market's going to slow down, stall up, and wait for these to get back together. Plus, you got a flat Kijinsen here. The market's not going anywhere till it violates this fractal. So we're looking at some rejections up here. You see the rejection levels where we see a spike here. This candle still has an hour and a half to go, so we'll see what it closes as. But you had a nice spike here, and then you got a big nice wick here. So we're looking at trading to the downside on a pullback. And I told you if we trade, we could trade down to this point here, or we could trade to the 4-hour Kijinsen here. So you have levels that you could look at. So if you're looking at levels, if this market's going to continue moving to the upside, and it broke these 4-hour daily 4-hour fractals, so the market may pull back and then continue to the upside. We can wait for a fractal break here, or we could trade to the downside. Look at your Kijinsen, your Tenkan-sen, make sure we get through there, because if we get through there, then our next level is here. So when you enter a trade short, you know that you have to look at certain levels that you want to get through to make sure your trade is good. All right, because these are trading levels to the upside, because everything is bullish on this trade. On this 4-hour, you got a future that's bright, and this is your future. It's bright. When I see a blue, it's a blue cloud. It's bright. This is my dark cloud. It's dark. When I get a TK crossover that's bullish, all right, Chiku span is above price and getting ready to go through the cloud up here, but it has resistance up here. So that's going to hold up your Chiku span. And then finally, price is above the Kumo and above Kijinsen and everything else. That's all bullish signs right there, right? So what we're looking at is probably just a correction on the 4-hour time frame. So we're going to be careful, because where we enter our trade, now if this candle closed as is, we'd want to enter here with our stop loss up here. And then we're going to have, we want to get through this Tenkan-sen here. Definitely want to get through there. So I have to get through there. That's one level that we're going to be paying attention to. And then we're going to look for the market to come down to Kijinsen, which is so close to our daily level that I told you, so we could pull back to that point. Now then at that point, that's what we'll have to see what the market's going to do. And I just wait for the price action to tell me, is it going to hold here and then go up to the upside? That's where I'm going to look to enter long and trade this to the upside. Now that could also happen, guys. Doesn't have to just happen at that point, right? That could happen at a couple areas. And one of the areas is going to be, if this is a strong trending market to the upside, it's going to be your Tenkan-sen. And if it's not super strong, it'll come back to Kijinsen, and then the market will move to the upside. All right, so everybody understand that. We're going to move on. Do I have any questions? I have questions when there's new people here. Usually when the members are here, it's like really quiet. Someone's telling me about signing up into the forum. Just send me an email, and I'll make sure you could get on there. I'll fix you up. Someone says they find that the stop loss is too large for small counts on the 4-hour and daily. Do you have any suggestions? Well, see, the way that we trade and everything that we've been doing, and I'm trading a 4-hour time frame, my stop losses are not that big. Usually I get a 30 pip stop loss, and I'm trading a 4-hour account with $100. I'm trading on the 4-hour time frame with $100 account. So that's what you guys could do. Now that's just the account that I'm using to show members to get confidence to be able to trade. So yes, I don't find there are going to be some bigger stop losses, but I always tell members this: there's great trades. So you could have a great trade and a great setup, but if that great trade and great setup has a stop loss that you can't afford, then it's not a great trade. It's not a good trade for you. So you could have a good trade but a bad trade. That trade might not be good for you because the stop loss is too big. Therefore, you can't get into the trade. All right. Would I look at Heikinashi? No, I'm not worrying about Heikinashi now, right now, because I don't need 1,000 things to tell me something, because the more things that tell me something, the more confusion there is. So if you have one person telling you something, then you got some solid information. If you have 3 people telling you, that's pretty solid. But if you have 100 people telling you all different things, or 20 people telling you all different things, you're getting confused, all right? And that's the same thing with your trader. So you're welcome, fellow Texan. But I'm no longer a fellow Texan. Um, okay, so let's move on. Let's get past this. We'll go to the next pair, which is going to be our CAD yen daily time frame. I really like this pair too. This pair, it's kind of sitting up, but I got to see what's going to happen here. So I'm thinking a few things may happen here. Okay, so let's go over this. Let's talk about this real quick. Last time we had our webinar, the market was in here somewhere, and I said this might be our top here because we had a violation here. Now I don't love this violation because the way when I get a violation, I really want to get a more of a violation here where I get a nice fractal here. Then the market pulls up. See, when I get a fractal, I want it to be on the point because this is an in-between fractal, but you still look at that, okay? So I'm not disregarding that. Now, when I'm looking at everything, I want to pay attention to everything, because when I get into a trade, I'm going to break it down candle to candle. That's how low we're going to get to a trade, and then we'll box this thing in. But what I'm looking at right now is this. First, I got a lot of volatility, right? When I get volatility like this, a lot of times I've found a top, all right? And then everything currently is bullish because you got a bright cloud, so your future is bright. All right, so that's bullish. You got a crossover here that's bullish. Now they pulled back together here. You could see Tenkan-sen and Kijun-sen getting tight again. So that's bullish. And then Chiku span is above price. Everything is bullish here. But I'm paying attention to the structure of the market. If I take Ichimoku off the chart, let's do that just for a second so you can understand what I'm paying attention to. I don't need Ichimoku to tell me some things. Now I could look at Ichimoku. Ichimoku's not going to be as fast as the market, so therefore I'm not going to get the information as quick. So when I'm looking at structure, I want to look at the market, what it's telling me. And I'm going to show you on this chart. All right, one thing here. All right, so we violate here and we made a low fractal. Now here we had the highest fractal and we failed to break that fractal, made another high that was lower. So that's starting to tell me that maybe we're going to see this, a violation of this fractal. When we see that, we want to trade. Now also we may see this for a little while until the market decides to break and then break. Because a lot of times when the market makes a nice move like this, it likes to go sideways for a while and then break. All right. If it makes a move to the downside, it'll go sideways and then break. But if you follow your fractals again, right, you're going to be safe. Now this was news here, so that's why I tell you don't trade news. That would have messed up everything for you. But looking at this, you broke this fractal level. This is when you start looking for the move. So I would have boxed this whole thing in first because it was sideways, so I wanted to see where it was going. If you box it in, you could see it violated this fractal up here, because I would have been afraid of this fractal because we were sideways so long. But finally we got a break here. We closed above, and that let me know which direction to trade. I shouldn't be trading short because look at these bear fractals, right? You're not violating these bear fractals until this point. Now that's when you want to start looking short. That's when your bias starts to change. Then you made another bear fractal. So if we violate that fractal, then I'm only inclined to go to the downside because you could see what it's telling you. That's what the market's telling you. And that's what I pay attention to. Now, again, we could range for a little bit and then go to the downside. Now, when we put Ichimoku back on here, we'll go to the 4-hour time frame, look at that. So let's throw that back on here, go to the 4-hour time frame, see what we got. All right, so, and also on this daily here, I mean, we failed to violate the Kijins in here, right? And we came back inside our TK zone, but then now again, this candle appears to be honoring this Kijinsen, our Tinkinson level here. Sorry about that. We seem to be honoring our Tinkinson level because we pulled right back to it and we failed to violate it. All right, so we got to pay attention to these fractals up here. If we violate, then you know which way we're going. But I'm thinking we're going to violate to the downside because we had our first break and we take. All right, so we go to the 4-hour time frame. Now we need price action to enter these markets, and we need a trade setup. I don't just enter just because. All right, so in the 4-hour time frame, if I tell you the same thing, let's look at it again. Let's take Ichimoku off the chart again and let you look at it. And the fractals are not after the fact. They're at the time. You violated that bull fractal there. This was the low fractal. You never violated it. You never violated that fractal. You never violated that one, and you never violated that one until we got up here and made this high. So if you're not violating bear fractals, guys, do not be trading to the downside. That'll help you with at least stop losing some trades. Just follow the fractals. Even if you're not trading the fractals, just follow. Because if you don't break the bear fractal, then why are you trading to the downside? You should be trading the fractals to the upside. We're breaking bull fractals. We broke this fractal. We broke this fractal. We broke this bull fractal. And we didn't really break this bull fractal because we made wicks up here and kind of closed right at it almost. All right, so that was our sign that we made a top up here. All right, and then we came down. We failed to violate this level right here. And now the market may range the way it's doing and then finally violate because you got these big wicks here. So a lot of times what you may see is something like this. When you get something like this and you're not sure, box that thing in. But let's see that we probably could see some ranging for a while again. And it's not saying that the market can't come back up here. All right, but once you violate a level, a fractal level, then you kind of know where the market's going. All right, and I'll wait till I get a trade. Now, if the market wants to pull up like this and then violate this level here, I'm probably going to take that break and trade that to the downside. All right, and where would I look to trade down to? I would trade down to this level. All right, and that's all based off of the daily support and resistance levels. All right, so let's put Ichimoku back on here. Okay, and now if there's some things that would keep me from entering this market based on Ichimoku right now, because you can see we got support at the cloud. So maybe you could wait for the Kumo breakout, but I'm trading the fractal breaks, okay? I'm trading the break of the fractal because it's telling me where the market's going. But right now, everything's bullish here. TK crossover is bullish. Your future is bullish. Chiku span, I mean, price is above the cloud and Chiku span is above price. Chiku span's inside the cloud here, though. So you got to watch out. It's going to find resistance at this point, too, also. So we don't have a real setup price action wise yet. I like to see this close and then we may have something because you got a little inverted hammer here. All right, and then we want to trade that. We'll box that hammer in and then trade to the upside. All right, so your upside level, if you're going to trade to the upside, where your first target would be, because we're saying we found the top quite possibly based off of what the daily's showing us. We would believe that the market may not go past that point, so we traded up to that point with the stop loss below the low wick here because that'll limit your risk. So people are talking about you get a big stop loss. So depending on where this closes, you know, that could be a 30-something pip stop loss if you got into a trade here based off of the price action that we see and the things that we talk about and learn to trade. All right, that would be a 34 pip stop loss. All right, so that's what you see. You don't always have big stop losses. Now, if that was a 60 pip or 80 pip stop loss, maybe you say, well, I don't want that. I don't take it. All right, but right now, just looking at this, we need this candle to close in another hour and 19, then we'll kind of get a feel for this because we have an inverted hammer here at the support level here. Then maybe we could get a trade to the upside, but any violation of this level here, we're probably going to see the market drop more to the downside. Any quick questions, and then I'll roll. Yeah, this webinar is being recorded. what are the two horizontal lines? They're just support and resistance levels and marking the fractals. Okay, we'll move on real quick. I don't want to spend a lot of time on a pair that we're not really going to catch a trade, and hopefully I could show you a good trade before we get out of here. Now the daily here is sloppy, but I do see a little bit of price action, but it's been very sloppy, so I don't love to get in trades when the market's been sloppy like this, because if we look at it, you can see. So let's take Ichimoku away so you could see the market first. All right, so now you could see the market better. You could see what's happening here, and this is big news here, so you got to remember that. That's why I tell people don't trade when there's news, because you be in a trade and look what happens. That's really hard to defeat that. So I don't trade news, and I don't enter the market. I'm not in the market during these news unless I've been in a trade already. I might stay in that trade and tighten up my stop loss, but you can see stuff like that is hard to beat. All right, so here the market was sideways, right? This is sideways market, then it violated, and then it pulled back into the level here. So with that said, it pulled back into the level, violated that fractal, but we have some nice rejection here. So I don't know what the market's going to do. I like the price action I see, but let me put Ichimoku back on there, because we don't. Looking at that, I wouldn't trade it right where it is. It's in the middle of the range. So I want to see what Ichimoku is telling me. And fractals, guys, remember, you use these when you're talking about a market that's trending. So if we're looking at a ranging market, it doesn't matter, because you're going to have breaks all over the place. All right. But see, we got a Kijun-sen bounce right here. Also at the bottom of the cloud, we have a nice rejection candle here. And then we had price action entry right here. That's where we would be. So this would also another entry. If we were entering this market based off of that, I'm just showing you what a stop loss is. This is the daily. It would be a giant stop loss. That's 144 pips. Now, when I go down to the four-hour time frame, I could probably get it much better. So we see this rejection here. It's too late to get into a trade on the daily time frame, on the 4-hour time frame, based off of this daily level, because when I look at a trade, I'm looking at the daily, and I want to trade the bias of the daily. Now it looks like we have a Kijun-sen bounce here, so I'm going to mark that so we could see it when we go to the 4-hour time frame. And then we're going to look at that really quickly and understand that. All right, so we go to the 4-hour time frame, we get into our trade. Now everything looks bearish here. All right, but we had a violation here, so I'm not sure what the market's going to do. All right, even violations scare me, but I like to listen to what those fractals tell me. But everything on Ichimoku is bearish here. So the 4-hour time frame is showing me something different than the daily, right? The daily's kind of got bullish signs. We got a TK crossover that's bullish. We got this cloud is starting to turn over. Chiku spans above price, but then if I go to the 4-hour time frame, this is where people get confused. All right, so they start looking at this 4-hour time frame and they say, well, the 4 hours tell me this, so they're confused. Well, I'm going to show you two things about that. All right, number one, we use the daily for the bias. All right, and you trade what your bias is telling you. All right, but then if you want to just trade your time frame, so if you're a 4-hour time frame trader, then don't go looking at the daily. Trade what you see on the 4-hour time frame. All right. So you wouldn't be entering the market anywhere here because you don't have a setup. All right. So we don't know what the market's going to do here. We're inside the TK zone. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to box this market in, because I really can't tell what it's going to do. I'm going to box it in right here because it's boxing its own self in. Am I right? It's boxed its own self in right here. It hasn't done anything since this period. So if it's not doing anything since this period, I don't want to be in a trade. I don't want to enter a trade in this area. So I know if we violate this box here, maybe I'm going to continue to see the market move to the downside. If we violate this level, we still got a lot of resistance above us with the Kijun-sen, with the flat cloud here. So that would be an issue. But the daily was trying to show me more of a move to the upside based off of this rejection here. But we don't know how far we go, because we do have strong resistance here with this flat cloud, right? So if you don't know what a pair is doing, you can't understand, wait and leave it alone. So I'm going to wait on this. That's why I boxed it in. and then maybe I'll get more of a feel for what the market's doing instead of just jumping into the market because I think I want to be in a trade. I need a setup, okay, and I don't have a setup right now. I'm inside that TK zone. No need for me to enter that zone right now. If the market's really trending to the downside or upside, look what it does. It stays pretty much below your Tinkinson here, and it's definitely below your Kijinsen. All right, so now it's starting to pull back. Is this going to be just a pullback? I don't know yet, and a move back to the downside. So the market could do this. If it's just going to be this, I don't want to be wrong. So I need to wait. That's why I boxed the market in. It's boxed in here. Then if it violates this level, then I kind of know what it might do, but we do have a lot of resistance above us. But still, looking at the market structure, you can see what we're doing. We're violating both these bull fractals. Now we haven't violated this one here. So we haven't also violated these lows yet. So we got to be careful of that. All right. So there's nothing to trade there. Don't force a trade. You could see the account that I showed you. I had 6 trades and I had 1 loser, and the reason is because I'm waiting. I'm being patient. I'm waiting. There was a time when I would trade. When I first started trading, guys, I think I told everybody this, but I'm going to tell you, I used to trade seriously, and I had 2 accounts that were pretty big. One was 5,000, I believe, and I just was like, okay, what happened? I traded that account, and I probably lost all that money in like 3 months. Boom. I was in like 20 trades a day, trading like crazy. But I knew I could trade, and I knew I can hit this, and I just had to learn about emotion and about really trading and understanding. So I did, and I learned, and like I said, I worked with a fund manager, and he helped me, taught me a lot, showed me about Ichimoku, and then got my patience and everything, developed my temperament, and then I started learning and trade better. So a lot of people just want to enter trades. They think they have to be in a trade. And I used to be that way. I definitely was looking for a trade. I got to be in a trade. I got to be in a trade. Now it's like I got to be in a good trade. I don't take any old trade. And sometimes I miss a trade because I want to be in a trade that I'm kind of feel sure about or safe about. I don't want to get into a trade and feel like I want to get into a trade and feel like I can go to bed without even worrying about that trade. If I got to get into a trade where I have to go back and look at it every 5 minutes, that's probably a bad trade for me. All right. So that's going to be that Euro Aussie. Euro CAD here. I'm going to move a little faster here because will be here all night. Right. So again, this market on the daily time frame, when we looked at this, we already knew where the market was going to go, and the market did exactly like we said. Okay. First of all, you see the fractal violations. You're violating bare fractals, guys. Pay attention to that. You violated bare fractals all the way down to this point. So while you're trading to the downside because you're looking at what the market's breaking, you should never be trading to the upside. The market never broke a bull fractal, so you shouldn't have traded to the upside. So that would have let you know. Now we hit support down here, and the market broke a bull fractal and broke another fractal here, pulled back, never broke a bear fractal yet. So now we want to see what the market's going to do, if it's going to violate this level. But what we looked at here, when the market was here the other day, we saw this big rejection. When we saw that rejection here, we figured the market would definitely move back to this point, the support and resistance level, and it bounced right off of that level. So now I kind of want to wait because we're sideways pretty much. I want to wait and see what the market's going to do. I don't need to jump in a trade if I don't understand. So maybe I'll get a better feel for what the daily's telling me. So let's do one thing. That's what the 4 hours telling me, but let's do one thing before we do that. And then I told you that the market likes to come back to the fractal levels, right? So let's look at that real quick, because I'm doing this for people that are new here, are not members. There's my fractal level, and I could make it into a zone if I wanted to, so that would be the zone, but I'm not going to make it a zone because I don't really have to, because you could see where, and when I make it a zone, it's because it has a long wick on it, on that fractal level there. And when we violate it, and I'm not counting this fractal, why? Because it's a double fractal and it's a big news day. So I don't really care about, I care about this first break here. This isn't the first break because that's news. Therefore, it messed up the structure a little bit there. But when we had this break here, the market broke that fractal level and you'd be safe trading. But then when we trade, we also look for the market to come back to that level. It came back to that level, guys, right there, and then dropped again. All right. And then we look for the market to come back to what level? The fractal level. Which one? The one that it violated right here. and we're going to trade it back to the downside. So the market violated this fractal level right here, and then we're going to look for it to come back to that level. So maybe you guys aren't seeing this, but we violated with this candle, and then the market moved down and came right back to that fractal level and then moved down again. But now it appears to be in a sideways move here. All right. So where do we catch our trade? We would have caught our trade back up here again. We needed some price action and it gave it to us. And now this is the daily time frame here, right? So if you paid attention to that fractal level that you violated right here, and sometime it'll come back to the wick or it'll come back to the base. All right. But it comes within that zone. That's why I make it a zone. But this zone would have been too tight. So I just looking at this top level, you could see the market came right back to that level, guys. All right, and then it dropped, and we would have marked it. This would have been our trade area right here. And when we look at our last webinar, this is exactly what we said the market would do. Well, that's what the market did. It went back to this support and resistance level. The market likes to go back to these support and resistance levels. So when you get into a trade, and I think we were looking at this, when we looked at it, it was after this rejection here, and then people were afraid because they saw on the 4-hour how it was moving a little bit higher. But look at that daily structure. That'll tell you everything. And then the market moved back to this point. So we want to look at those fractal levels, guys. All right, so let's go Ichimoku on here. Put it back on here, and then we'll look at that. So Ichimoku is not great in the sideways market, but this market's not really sideways. We're just sideways here for this temporary point right here. All right, but we got a TK crossover now that's bullish. All right, we have a violation of the fractals, the bull fractals, and we did not violate a bear fractal. We stopped violating bear fractals. So I'm going to be cautious here. I want to go to the 4-hour time frame, see what I could get. And I don't love this, so I'm just be patient here. Even if I look at a Kijinsen bounce here, so if the market violates this fractal level here, then probably moving much higher, at least to this point, and then probably through the cloud. So I want to box this in again because I'm not sure right here. So I'm going to box it in here. The market has to tell me something at this point, right? We're boxed in here. But if I get a nice price action level here, I would take the trade to the downside. Now I'd be worried about the market only going down to this point here or down to here, because we probably could be pretty much sideways like we're looking at here. Now you can see it better on the daily time frame again, how sideways it is. It's sideways at this point. Then you came back to that point. You had this top here. This was support here, then violated. So it was resistance, resistance again, and support here. So we could bounce now and maybe come back or go back to this point. So going back to the 4-hour time frame, I'm going to see what I get here. All right, if I get a price action entry here, maybe I take this trade to the downside with a stop loss a little bit above that fractal here. Now, we didn't really violate a bull fractal on the 4-hour, all right, because we never closed above one. That tells you where the market's going with the close. Why isn't the market closing above this level? Now, here you could see, so you got to close with these little candles, but I don't like that right here. So if I talk about a close, I'm looking at this fractal level. Not this one right now. I'm looking at this, but you can see we violated a little, but these little candles violating. All right, so we want to see this market violate this level, and we'll kind of know better. All right, and that's why we box this thing in, because the market can't stay here forever. And when it goes one way or the other, then we kind of get an indication of what may be going on. If we think it's going to break bull fractals and it does, then it's probably going to move to the upside. All right, you can see we're getting volatility here. All right, a lot of volatility. You may see this thing roll over. You may see this happen, and then the market's going to move to the upside. And this is where you get your cross, and you get your crossover, and the market moves to the upside. Now, this is future planning, but I'm always looking ahead, thinking about what the market may do. But you always trade what you see. Don't trade what you think. All right, I think a lot, and I'm wrong a lot. But when I see what I trade, that's when I'm right. When I'm not right all the time, but when I see something and I trade what I see, I'm better off. All right, so euro pound daily time frame. Again, we have some supply and demand levels, so we want to mark those and see if how the market holds true. We were in a nice, you can see I have a trend line here, and we're in a nice bull channel here. And I didn't put the top level, but we're in a bull channel. But the market moved higher and then flattened out here. starting to flatten out. Now on this move to the downside, you can see we violate this first fractal break. Now when I tell you to take that first break, you probably would have taken this because you think that's the first break. Don't take that fractal break there, because this isn't a true fractal here, because you can see what it's doing. It needs to be a true fractal like this. So when the market came down here and violated this fractal level, that's where you enter this to the downside. You already you had a TK crossover that was bearish. You had a fractal break, and then the market moved to the downside. You're in the trade. Now we've been sideways pretty much and sloppy. So let me tell you what, guys, can you trade red, green, red? I mean, can you trade green, red, green, red, green, red, 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 green, green, green? Can you trade that? I don't think you could trade that. So don't trade garbage, all right? So I can't understand what the market's doing here, because basically it's not doing anything. It's pretty much in the same area it was from this point to this point. You're not doing anything. So wait for the market to give you more of an indication of what it's going to do. And I can't tell you much on the daily. We haven't broken fractals. We're pretty much sideways. So if I took Ichimoku off and everything, you would see I could box this market in, and we'll be in a sideways market pretty much from this point on. Now I won't trade this range because I don't love I like a clean range. And this is pretty clean, but we're inside the middle of that range. You don't want to trade the middle of the range. You want to trade the top or the bottom. When you trade the bottom, you want to trade it back to the top. When you're trading the top, you want to trade it back to the downside. So that we're sideways right now. So I'm going to go to the 4-hour time frame, and maybe I get a picture of that a little bit more. So 4 hours telling me some good stuff, and I like what the 4 hours showing me a little bit better. So I'm starting to get some signs here. So what am I going to do? Basically, you could take the Kumo breakout on this trade, all right? But what I would look at here, and I'm going to take Ichimoku off so you can understand the market, all right? We boxed this market in, so I'm going to box this in because it's doing nothing between this point. In order for it to do something, it has to break out of these levels. So really, it's not doing anything. It's been in this level for a long time. This area here, this is where it's opening and closing, and it's doing the same thing, opening and closing in that level. So why would you want to enter a trade, guys? You would not want to enter the trade. Let the market start showing you something. Let it violate here, or let it violate up here. Then you know it's starting to move. Then you could start trading. But at this point, you don't want to trade that, so it's garbage. The market gives you garbage, don't take it. This is like being at a used car lot. It's like being at a car dealer. You go to different car dealers, and you can buy any car that you want for the price that you desire. You don't have to take that dealer's price. Go to another dealer. So I don't have to take this price of this pair. I'll go to another pair. So I'm leaving Euro Pound because I'm going to go look for another pair and find something better. Now the reason I didn't put Ichimoku on here, guys, is because you could see again, this is sideways. Another sideways market. We already bounced off of the top. Maybe this market's moving to the downside. So daily time frame, you could see we're sideways, right? And I told you, most of the time the market likes to do this. You get a nice move to the upside, it'll go sideways and then drop to the downside. And there's a lot of reason for that. But let's put Ichimoku on here, go to the 4-hour time frame, see if we could get anything there. Okay, this is telling me something. Big volatility here. All right, so look at this overall. So we're going to remove this. Big volatility here. You got a level here, which may be your top. You can see we're sideways. You got a top here. So we're going to go to the 4-hour time frame. Now, if we get a close below Kijinsen, I'll probably take the trade to the downside because you're going to be breaking these fractal levels. So I would trade this to the downside with a close below Kijinsen. But I'm going to go to the 4-hour time frame. And then a lot of people are going to ask me, why am I trading above the cloud short? Well, you have to be in the course to understand that. I can't really explain all that now. Now, if I was looking at this on the 4-hour time frame, I'll leave this thing alone. All right. And why, guys? Well, can I trade red, green, 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 red, red, green, green, red, green, red, 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 green, green? Can I trade that? I can't trade it. And there's no real setup for me right now. This was not a setup because it wasn't at support and resistance level. All right, so it's not a setup for me because everything's bearish here on this pretty much. You got a TK crossover that's bearish. Chiku span is below price, and price is kind of below the cloud, but I wouldn't trade. You don't want to trade this to the upside because you could see it's giving you garbage. All right, so I can't give you anything on that. Let's move off of Euro Yen. Now I got the Euro US dollar here, and I went to the weekly here. And why did I go to the weekly? Let me go to the daily to see exactly why I went to the weekly. I know I went to the weekly for a purpose. Okay, here's my purpose. So I want to go back, show you guys again. I can show you this on every pair. I'm going to take Ichimoku off for a minute, and we trade the fractals in the direction of the cloud. So if we're breaking pair fractals and the cloud is telling us we want to trade those fractals, and we could trade the fractal breaks and bounces, right? So we're going to take this off the chart because we could trade, basically guys, I don't need anything to trade. I could trade these fractals. How? Because first of all, when the market's moving to the downside, I find my fractal level. We violated a bear fractal. There we go, violating the bear fractal, right? So I usually want to take that first break right here. This would be my trade. I'd be in the trade right here. All right. And I start off with a big stop loss a lot of times, depending on what the market's doing. I'm not going to let the market come all the way back to my stop loss, but I like to give the market room to move because sometime it'll come back and then I know I don't want to be in a trade if it's coming back. When you break a fractal, you want to see the market go. It shouldn't be fooling around on a break because then it's not really going. But if I didn't enter the trade on the break here, I still have another opportunity. Now, newsroom to trade, but I'm going to show you where the opportunity was. So a lot of members probably already know where the opportunity was. So let me see. I'm going to just show you. So you broke right here, broke the fractal with that candle. I didn't get into the trade, all right, but I know the direction of the market. What's the direction of the market? It's a bearish market. So the market moves down and then comes all the way back up here, right? And what does it do? It bounces off of our fractal level right there. Right here, the bounce of that fractal level, and then it drops. The news would have taken you out here. So that's why I tell you don't be in a trade on a news day. But if you were in a trade, you would have been down here with a little bit of profit and then been able to get out of the market. Now this is looking at daily time frame here. All right. But then if you look at that, right, so I tell you about the fractals, right? So I'm going to break this down again. All right, so it's the same pair, and I look at that. I did this on every pair so far almost. All right, so the market violates this fractal level, violates and comes right back to it. All right, cool. Put it down here on this fractal. The market goes up, violates that fractal level, and it gapped down because this was a Friday here, opened up Sunday, gapped below. So it violated. Well, what are you going to do if you didn't get this trade short, right? You're going to look for a trade short again, but you got to be patient. So if you're patient, and this would have been a really hard one to catch unless you set a level because price action didn't give us a good setup. What happened here, the market did the same thing. It violated, and then it came back to our fractal level, boom, and then the market went. Now, I don't make this stuff up. This is what it's doing. All right, so I'm going to show you. It even did it a little bit at the end here. But this is where it's starting to get weak. All right, these are good moves here because it's in a nice trend to the downside, but then it starts to weaken out. But then you have your fractal level again, and I don't like this long fractal here, so I'm going to mark it right here because that fractal lines up with all these here anyway. So I'm going to mark that level. All right, so we'll put it right at the base here because this fractal is really in line with this fractal. So we get the violation, and then what does the market do? Pulls right back to that level, gets a big rejection, and trade to the downside. And then now we're moving back up to the upside. So now we don't know what the market's going to do here. So we got to be patient. So let's throw Ichimoku on here and start to see if we see anything on here. So I'm going to put Ichimoku back, and we'll go back down to the 4-hour time frame and look at this. All right, so daily you could see. Now, guys, for those that don't know or aren't a part of the course, we trade also a lot of Kijinsen bounces and Tenkan-sen bounces. When the market's trending nice to the downside, you're going to get bounces off of the Tenkan-sen, and you could trade those. Now also what you're going to get is a TK crossover, and then the market pulls back inside your TK zone. Then you could trade it back to the downside again on the break of your Tenkan-sen or the break of your fractal or whatever you're looking at. All right, but a lot of times when we're getting a nice trend, we want to trade these Tenkan-sen bounces because the market's going to stay below Tenkan-sen and keep bouncing, and you could trade those levels. Now here, it violated because it pulled back, and you would have had to wait for a different trade. So we're going to go down to the 4-hour time frame. Right now, 4-hour time frame, we would already should have been in our trades. Right, we had a couple opportunities. So we had a violation of this fractal level right here. Should have been in a trade to the upside. So you violated, had a little pullback, and then violated again, made a new fractal here. So you probably eventually see the market violate this level again. All right, so you'll probably get a pullback and then violate. You got a TK crossover that's bullish. Chiku spans above price. Price is above the cloud, and your future just turned over. What I'm looking at now is probably need to get a pullback because you're out of your equilibrium. You're out of equilibrium here, so you're overextended. So you may see the market pull back somewhere, maybe down to this point, the cloud here. All right, but I don't see it breaking this fractal level. Remember that. It's not going to break that level. It's going to continue to the upside. It could pull back to that level, but long as it doesn't close below that level, it's going to continue to the upside. So that's your kind of clue there. All right, but we want to find where the level is to get into a trade back to the upside. So we just need to wait on the pullback because we're pullback traders pretty much. We get a pullback sitting on Tinkinson here. All right, so that's where we'll start to see if we get price action at that level, or maybe we get it at the bottom of the cloud as we did here. We had a price action entry right here off of the bounce of this cloud for a move to the upside. Now we're going to look for the same thing down here, but maybe we get it off the Tinkinson. All right, so you got to give the market some time. And then if the market doesn't do what you want and it stays in this area here, right, it doesn't do much, then box that thing in and do inside trading right here. And then wait for it to violate. If it violates this level, then you know you're going back down a little bit lower. All right, so we box in the market a lot of times when we don't have a setup or when we're waiting on a setup. This right here, I think we could see something develop on this trade within, you probably won't see it by this week because you got Friday's the last day of trade. I don't think we'll have a trade set up on this yet. So I think next week we'll probably be able to hit something on the Euro US dollar. All right, so keep your eyes open. I'll send out alerts on that and I'll post the trade setups for that. Pound Swiss franc daily. We violated bear fractals here, guys. So here's some more signs for you. Let me take some of this stuff off the chart so you can see what I'm looking at. So I want to go with the bias of the daily. Now, sometime I get that bias of the daily and the 4-hour looks, if you judge it based off of what you see and what you think, you're going to probably be wrong. So I'm looking here. Let me go to questions because I haven't answered any in a while. And I don't have any new questions, so good. Chiku bouncing up. No, we don't worry about Chiku bouncing, okay? Don't worry about that. So when we're using the 2-candle profit method, can we still guard against spikes? Well, I mean, it's hard to guard against spikes, okay? Because really, how can we guard against a spike? I mean, because we don't know how big it's going to be, right? So that's why you have the 2-candle method. You are guarded against the spike. 2 candles, you're going to be out. It's going to take you out. So that's your guard. Okay. Somebody asked where can they view this again. If you're not a member, you could view it on YouTube. I'll post it. If you're a member, then you know you can find it in the member section. Let's start talking about this pair. So we're violating, and I'm going to show you how to definitely box this in because this is telling you a lot of information anyway already. All right, so again, let's go back to the market here. All right, I'm going to go backwards so you can really see what I mean. When the market breaks these fractals, guys, follow that direction. No matter what it does right here. You broke a bear fractal. Until it breaks a bull fractal, don't trade to the upside. So that rule right there is just going to help you to not lose some trades. All right, so you broke a bear fractal, and I'm only going back this far. You broke that bear fractal, you broke this bear fractal. If you're trading long, why? You're wrong because the market's breaking bear fractals. And then it made a bottom here. The market starts with a fractal. The trend starts with a fractal and ends with a fractal. And then you had a sideways market here. We would box that in because it's a range anyway on a daily, and you could go down the 4-hour time frame and we would trade that range, right? But with that sideways market, we're going to wait for a violation, and you got one here. So the market's violating bull fractals at this point, right? So if it's violating bull fractals at this point, you should never be going short. Therefore, you won't lose any trades. And I'm talking about even on your 4-hour time frame. Now, if you're going to trade just your 4-hour time frame, then you're not going to do this. You're going to look at the 4-hour time frame and only do that. So we haven't violated that fractal, that bear fractal. We haven't violated that one, nor that one, nor that one on this move to the upside. But we violated that bull fractal there. We violated that one. That's a clue, 2 clues. We violated this level. Now we found a top and we haven't violated and came right back to it twice. These are all signs that you should be paying attention to when you're trading, because now these signs here are telling me that the market may fall to the downside. All right, because we found a top and couldn't violate the top, made a new fractal, and it's the same level, couldn't violate. So here's the first violation. The first break you take, that's the first break right here, you take the trade. Now your trade wouldn't have been too good right now because we're sideways. You would have had a nice move to here on your, if you got in on this candle, you had to move here, but then the market moved all the way back up. So how do we look at the market right now? Well, I feel like if we're already violating bear fractals, we probably continue to violate the bear fractals. So if it doesn't do what we're thinking it's going to do, let's box it in to see, because we don't know what it's going to do right here. It's sloppy. So we box this in, and now this is daily time frame. So it's going to be big. I do this with the 4-hour too, though. Same thing. Same rules apply. Now I do this more with the 4-hour because I'm going to trade the 4-hour. I'm not going to trade the daily, so I wouldn't really box the daily in. I box it in if it's a big range, and then I can trade it. So I'm going to go to the 4-hour. I'm going to keep Ichimoku off for a second, and then we'll put it back on. So you see that big box right there. So I don't need that on the 4-hour, because 4-hour, I would just look at the market here. I don't like the way the market is, and I'm not going to trade it. It's all over the place. Its price action is ugly. So let's put Ichimoku back on the chart, see what we could look at, and if there's something that we could focus on. Okay, so there is some weakness here, all right, but we're sideways too. So the weakness here is that we got a TK crossover that's bearish, and the market failed to violate above the cloud and above the Kijinsen here. All right, so this is a good definite box in, and the market's already boxed in with the Kumo here. The Kumo is boxing this market in, so you could trade the breakout of this market. So if I boxed it in, I would box it in here. It's going to be boxed in here, and then it has to violate that level, because I can't trade this garbage. 3 reds, 2 greens, then another red, little small candles. I can't trade that because it's not giving me a direction. I can only trade directions, and I need to see a direction. All right, so let me know what you're doing, market. If it's not going to let you know, don't trade. We got a crossover here that's bullish. We got a crossover here that's bearish. We got all mixed signals here on Ichimoku. And then we got mixed signals on our fractals because we're sideways right here. Right? So therefore, be careful here. Nothing to trade. You don't have a clear setup. Based off of the way we trade in our setups, there's nothing there to trade right now. That's not a high probability trade. There's many traders that will trade this, but there's nothing to trade. That's why people lose their trades, because they jump in trades that there are nothing. So that's pound Swiss franc, pound yen. And I'm saying the same things over, but guys, look, here's what the deal is with the market right now. We just got over holidays. You got over Christmas, then you got over New Year's. Now you got the first week of the market really back in the new year. You got people coming off of vacation. So you got big bankers coming back off of vacation. You got fund managers and everybody coming back to the market. So you'll probably see these moves start to develop next week, and you'll start to see the market break out of these ranges that you've been seeing here, which are kind of hard to trade, because these here, the market's not doing anything here. Now I do like this setup here based off of the daily, and I'm still going to follow this to the downside. Based off of the daily, I'd be looking to trade this to the downside. Now, when I go to the 4-hour, people are going to be like, well, you could trade this to the upside, but look at your targets, okay? So if we're going to trade this to the upside, we probably could only think about that level. And then here's your bottom level where we're looking to see the market violate, right? You got volatility. Look at the big cloud, big volatility there. So with that volatility, that's telling me a lot. We had our first break. You would take that trade. You're still in the trade. You're still safe, but it's not yielding you much because the market's sideways. I do like what I see, because Chico span is starting to get inside price, which is going to mean range, and you can see where I'm ranging. Got a TK crossover that's bearish. Then you got a thick cloud here, and that thick cloud is volatility, and then we'll see if it turns over. All right. So I'm going to go to the 4-hour time frame. My mentality is to trade to the downside right now. And this is sloppy again too, right? And then remember, I told you if we did trade to the upside, right? So on the 4-hour, it looks like, okay, if I got to trade a Kumo breakout, I could trade to this level. This would be where I would be seeking the trade based off of how did I get that level? I got it off of this daily because remember we boxed it in and we said it has to really come outside of these levels to really let us know what's happening. If we close below this point, then we know what the market's going to do. If you get a close below here, we're going to the downside. You get a break above here, then you close above this point, you're probably going to shoot for this level. All right. And if you could get past that level, you shoot for this top right here. Now I don't have a definite trade, but my bias is to the downside. And the way the market is, it's kind of sloppy here. I don't have a setup that I like to enter the market to the downside. All right, so I will wait, let price give me something more definite setup, and then I'll trade because I can't trade this stuff. I mean, we have big rejections here, right? So these rejections we're rejecting off of the cloud here. All right, so we may see the market move a little higher. All right, and with that move, remember what I told you about just looking at that 4-hour, you can see that looks like a good move on the 4-hour, but overall you know where your target is. But I'm still shooting for the move to close below this level, and that's where I'll start getting interested in this pair. All right, so that's the pound yen, pound New Zealand dollar. I did the same thing here because the market again sideways, you can see where it is, and this is a nice daily sideways market. Let me mark this level on the basis so you could see it a little nicer. All right, you see that? So that's where the market stayed in this range here. That's why I took Ichimoku off, because I wanted to show you that. All right, and then the market looked like we tried to bounce on this level. Now remember, guys, support and resistance is not a defined level. It's an area. So if I say, well, somebody may say, well, we didn't get back to the support level we hit here. Well, that's close enough. We got support. We're at that support level. All right, and then the market moved higher. But now we're kind of, I call this when I'm trading a range or even any kind of trade, I want to be at my top or at my bottom. All right, I don't want to trade in between. I need something to support me on the top or support me on the bottom, depending on the direction of my trade. Therefore, if I don't have that, I'm not getting into a trade. And if it's too far from the top or the bottom, then I'm not going to trade it. So you be patient and wait. So let's throw Ichimoku on. We'll go back down to the 4-hour time frame. Now we had some really good trade setups that we should have been looking at, and we're going to talk about those because we're getting ready to get through here shortly. But we're 4-hour here, and this is ugly, guys. I mean, this is really ugly. Look at this since this period here. Red, green, red, red, green, green, red, green, green, red, 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 green, red, and I can go on. But look at the wicks. Look at the, you have wicks on both sides of your candles. All right, that stuff will take you out. You don't need that. Don't mess with that. And this is 4-hour time frame. So I'm not going to tell you anything on that pair right now. That's why I always say box it in, because it'll do that inside the box, but once it breaks out, it's starting to move. And when we get into trades, guys, we want to enter trades that are high probability. That's not high probability. High probability trades will be trades like this that are moving, trades like this that are moving, trades like this that are moving. So I don't make the market, so I can't make trades that aren't there. So trades like this that are moving. I mean, we would trade a range like this. This is a nice range, but because you got your bottom, then you pretty much got your range top. You can trade that range. All right, and you can see that support level is pretty strong there. Look where it is. So if I looked at the market coming back to a level, where I'm going to look for it, if I traded up here off of a bounce off of a support and resistance level, I'm going to trade that right back down to this point. Ichimoku is not helping me in this pair, right? So I would trade right to this level, and then if it gets to that level, I want to see what it's going to do. Let the market tell me what it's going to do. And then when it tells me, maybe I trade back to that point. So until the market does different, then keep trading what it's doing. Let it tell you opposite. All right, but Ichimoku does me no justice in a market like that. So, and let me just throw it back on again to clarify. I like to clarify things, make sure people ever understand. Ichimoku does you no justice when it's crisscrossing with your Tenkan and Kijin back and forth. You got a cloud crossover back and forth. Look at all these crossovers and look at the market crossing over Tenkan and Kijin. The market is not doing anything for me to trade. Now I am aware that I see that we got a TK crossover that's bearish, and we have yet to reject this Kijin. That's a good thing, but I'm not going to enter the trade up here because I want to see the market start to move and then do what I thought it would do before I get into the trade. All right. So nothing there. Pound US dollar. We got a couple more to look at and then we get out of here. I'll be out of you guys here. And it's like the same thing I'm telling you again. We were in a nice range way back here from this point up to here. Found that level. But I don't like what I see right now. We violated this fractal here. So on the violation, if we get a violation, will we move to this point where your Kijinsen is and then look for a trade to the downside, or will we violate and go back to this fractal? So if I don't have Ichimoku on here, I can understand maybe better. So I'm going to take it off quickly because we're sideways here, right? It's sideways. You could see that. So we had a violation here. So my feel is that we're going to move to the upside here and get back to this point. And if it might not seek that point, maybe we see it seek this level here. You see where I put that. So anywhere in that area, we probably see the market move back to that point. So I'm going to put Ichimoku back on and go to the 4-hour time frame. And let me set this level up here. So let's put Ichimoku on, see what 4-hour tells us. Maybe we'll get more info than what this daily is showing me here. And yes, you could see I like this on the 4-hour time frame. So there's a couple things we're going to look for. So we said we wanted to trade maybe back to this point. Now that's long term, all right, because you're going to have resistance at this point too. All right, so let's look at this. You're going to have resistance here. All right, and it's going to be this. So we violated this fractal here. The market started to move higher. Stop violating bear fractals here, and we kind of sideways a little bit. Then you finally started to move in a nice little trend maybe. So where am I going to look to get into a trade? We have levels. The way we trade is we trade off of levels. Well, the first level I'm going to look at is the first level that comes to me. It could be any of them. So the first level is this fractal level. And I would make it a zone, but I'm not going to make it a zone. Let me make it a zone. Let me make it a zone right here. Maybe the market pulls back to that point because your Tenkan is there too. Or it's going to pull back to that Kijinsen and I could trade long. Now, it may not reach that point at all and it may just violate. So I have 3 things that I could look at to get into a trade to the upside if I'm going to trade to the upside, right? Either the market finds support in this area here and then just violates this fractal here and I could trade that, and then I want to see it get past that point and then I'll trade to the next level. So what are my levels of, if I get through that point here, we're starting to seek out this level, which is long term, right? Because that's based off, again, based off of what we see with the daily. We follow the market structure, right? I can't show you well. I showed you in the beginning that we were sideways, found the bottom, found the top, and we're going sideways ever since. All right, so that's why we're using those levels. All right, so back to the 4-hour. Now, how are we looking for a trade? All right, maybe we get a bounce off of this fractal level, or we get a bounce off of Tenkan-sen. Tenkan-sen is at the fractal level. You got a TK crossover that's bullish. Your cloud is bullish. Chiku spans above price, you're bullish. Price is above the cloud, you're bullish. All bullish signs right here. We looked at our daily, we found our bias, and we're bullish. So here we look for the market to come back to this point. Here's where we get interested in the trade. We're going to look for price action entry, trade to the upside. All right. Now, if it doesn't pull all the way back there, then we're going to look at that price action and I'm going to look for a violation. All right. So those are the levels we're looking at, but then you also have your Kijinsen down here. Kijinsen's flat. It will be support and resistance also. So if we violate our fractal zone, then we may see it at this point, and then we could trade to the upside. We'll be following Ichimoku because we got all bullish signs, right? Showed you all bullish signs. Every sign is bullish. Therefore, we'll be following it. We have our bias. So now all we have to do is wait for price to reach our level. Price reaches our level, look for price action entry off of the price action entry triggers that we learn. And when you get that trigger, you need a setup and a trigger. Look for your setup at that level and then your trigger at that level, and that's where you trade. One of these levels, watch price get to those levels. Now, we're not always going to be right, so price may come to that level and just violate and go to the downside. Therefore, you don't have a trade. But you already know where you want to trade before the trade, so you know what you're looking at. And then you also know if you violate that point, that may be where you want to enter also, because the market may not pull all the way back there. But that's a safe bet right there. All right. Everyone understand that? Any questions on that? Because I'm about to move really quick again. Hopefully everybody understands that. My main man Creighton here helping me out here, because I see you telling people what the deal is. Creighton's been a member for a long time, one of my good members. Great work I do. How do I set targets? Fixed base fractals or Kijun price crossover? I set targets based off of support and resistance, okay? So because the market likes to follow support and resistance. So I just look to my left, find a support and resistance level, the next one, and I go to it. So I was already showing you, we're looking at a trade here, but I set the daily level, right? So we're looking at the 4-hour trade entry. First thing I did, I took this off the chart. I'm going to put it back and show you why I got certain levels. But my first level, I got this level up here that I'm looking for, but I did move a level down here. I wanted to look at a bounce here. So if we violate, we could be looking at the market moving to that point. All right. Let me remove that. So that's where I set how I set a level, right? Because we're even violating we violated a fractal here. So that set it off for the 4-hour. We go to the 4-hour. 4 hours bullish. So I'm looking at that level. So I'm going to trade to that point. If we violate that point, then I could just move up to the support and resist the next resistance level. All right, and just follow that out. And now I also have a 2-candle rule. I'm not going to go deep into it, but stay 2 candles behind the market. 2 candle lows or 2 candle highs, depending on direction of your trade. This point, it would be 2 candle lows. You would still be way down here with your stop loss if you entered somewhere down here. But right now, we're not in a trade, so we have to wait. But I stay 2 candles below the market. And when the market slows down, it doesn't usually just give you move and then come straight back 2 candles. All right, it usually falters. You can see how it does here. It slows down. Then it would have taken your 2 candle out right here. So if I got into a trade down here based off of price action, and this is just for instance, so I could show you what I'm talking about so you can know how I set targets or have a stop loss that I follow. If I'm following this market and I base this off of my entry right here off of this indecision candle, and the market moved higher off of support, right? We moved higher. I'm staying 2 candles behind the market. So if I stay 2 candles behind the market, I got to be at the low with my stop loss. So we start out with, I'll probably start out with it here though, but now you're going to follow 2 candles behind. So when the market's here, you're back here with your stop loss. So the market gets here, you're 2 candles back still. So you would be here. All right. Then the market gets here, you're 2 candles here. Now the market's here. Now look how closer you're getting. And then the market made this candle, you would have been here and you would have got taken out right there. And that maximized a lot of your profit because you got this area here where your profit is. All right, now we have some nice movement here. I want to see that market get here and then move to the upside. But you can see how I follow that out. And if you do that, that helps you sometime if you don't know where to set your targets. All right. But I like to have a target, and even if I'm following the 2 candles. All right, so that's what I look at there. We do have a setup developing, but I think looking at this, it could be, maybe it'll set off before sometime tomorrow, but it's not going to be the next candle or the next candle. So at least 3 or 4 candles from now before we could think about bouncing off of this level, which would take us into Friday. We probably won't get a trade. Be looking at that opening up early on Sunday open for something there. Let's put Ichimoku back. Oh, I'll change that to 3 hours. Put that to 4 and put Ichimoku back. Yeah, I haven't been real busy the last couple weeks, but I'm going to be very active shortly here because the holidays and all that stuff and the markets were crazy and I took vacation. So we're going to be active here. We got our chat room and everything. We wanted to keep that going, keep our forum going. But this trade we're going to be looking at, so I'm going to alert you guys, but the guys, especially new people who looking at trade setups and where to set your levels and where to get into a trade, what's the first thing I want to do? If I think that's going to be my level, I want to put a price alert before it gets to that level so I don't miss this trade, because I'm telling you where the market may go. Now start putting price alerts. and then put a price alert up here so you'll know that when it gets to that point, it may violate that level. I want a price alert down here because this is where I'm looking to take my trade. So if it gets down here, then I know I start looking at this pair. When it gets in here somewhere, it may even come to our Kijinsen. But again, you want to have a price alert because you're not going to come and see, you may not see this, but that alert may let you know. All right. That way you don't miss some trades. All right. So that's pound US dollar. That's a pair I really like, pound US dollar. So New Zealand dollar yen, this pair I really like this, what's happening right here with this daily time frame. And guys, I think you will see this happen. All right, so we need to be careful here. And this is based off of the daily. And I would trade this daily, what I'm looking at. It looks like a couple other pairs, but you could see we had a nice move to the upside. Again, look at fractals. You never violated any bear fractals, right? You had big news here, but if you follow the fractals, you're pretty safe. So look at that. We made a new high fractal, but we failed to break that one, and so we made another. This is our high fractal. So this bull fractal, we made a lower bull fractal. That's a sign. That's a first indication. And then a violation of the fractal, the bear fractal, that's my first indication really. But then my second indication is the fractals, we failed to make a new high fractal. All right, and then my definite set off is going, we violate this level, I'm in the trade. So you could do this right now. I guarantee you, if you set this up, you don't have to come back to me and even look at this, because what's going to happen is when we get a violation of that level, that's where you probably should be taking that trade to the downside, right? Trade that fractal break right there. All right, but now we could get a better trade, and I'm going to tell you why I like this right now, because we found the top. It looks like that's probably your top. What does the market do? It starts and ends with a fractal. It starts this level with a fractal for a trade, for a trend. So all trends will start and end with a fractal. This move to the upside ended with this fractal, if that's the top, right? And it started with a fractal low down here. Start with a fractal, end with a fractal. Now the thing is, why do I like this? This volatility. Then you have the three things I already told you about the fractals. And then you have a TK crossover that's bearish. You have Chiku span right here. I mean, Kijinsen right here. And price has failed with 4 candles to violate Kijinsen. We're staying below that Kijinsen. We made lower bull fractal. We made a lower bull fractal, and the market failed to violate the bull fractal. All right. So now I'm waiting for that violation. That's looking at the daily time frame. So let's see if we could get something off of the 4-hour time frame. Our bias is already set, right? We already know what our bias is because we just said it. We just said what we wanted to do. So we're going to the 4-hour. Now the thing about the 4-hour, this is sloppy a little bit. Yeah, I don't have a real setup yet on the 4-hour, but it's still bearish too, because you could see what's happening. TK crossover is bearish. Price is sitting above the cloud right now, but you're starting to get your future, dark future here. Chiku span's kind of inside price, so that's why you get a little ranging here. How do we get into a trade? Well, we got a TK crossover here. We may bounce off of your Kijinsen, off of your Tinkinson right here. All right, so you may have a Tinkinson bounce. We got to be careful and watch for that Tinkinson bounce, because you got your crossover. What do we look for? You get a crossover, and then you get price pull back to your Tinkinson, and then you look for your trade. So let's see what this candle closes as in 30 minutes, and then let's see what the next candle does. That'll probably tell us more with the next candle. This candle is not going to tell us the story. The next candle will. And we're look for a price action entry to the downside based off of everything we said. We're going to look for that trade to the downside. You violated the bear fractal here. Look at these fractals up here. You failed to make new highs. These bull fractals failed to violate each other, so therefore you had a violation here. You want to look for a trade to the downside. Now, where's our entry? We don't know yet, but it looks like maybe a Tinkinson bounce here, because you got a TK crossover. Everything's starting to look bearish here, so I'm going to wait and see if we could get a bounce off of this level. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this trade up again in the forum. I'm going to post this, and then we'll keep tabs on it. I'll make a post on the forum for this. But currently, there's no opportunity yet, but it's really close. So I don't think the next candle will trigger us, but maybe 8 hours from now, which would be, you know, the next 8 hours. Then look at the candles and see what you got. All right, so that's going to be New Zealand dollar yen, and we're going to look at that price action entry. If you don't get the price action entry, don't just trade the level, because I don't trade the level because I don't know where I don't, even if I set my stop loss here. So if I trade the level, I like to be sure that we're getting a bounce at this point. So I may say, well, I'm taking a Tinkinson bounce right here. I put the entry here with a stop loss above the Kijinsen right here, but then price comes higher than the Kijinsen, then bounces off the Kijinsen and goes lower. I'm going to wait to get price action entry at this point, and I could still put my stop loss here, but it gives me more confirmation that this level is holding. All right, so that's what I want to get. All right, so I'm looking at a Tinkinson bounce here, and then we'll look for the trade. You got 30 minutes for this candle to close. I think you'll see it on maybe the next candle or the next one after that. We'll set it all up. All right, New Zealand dollar yen, now New Zealand dollar US dollar daily time frame. All right, this looks pretty good. Now looking at the daily, you can see we did violate this fractal here. So that set the trade off for the upside. But again, remember, we have resistance here with the Kijinsen, and the market's still bearish below the cloud. So we could look for price action entry with a bounce off of this level, because this is a pullback. All right, so what I looked at here also, and my level was violated. All right, so I'm going to be careful on this one. This was my fractal level that I wanted to set for the market to pull back and trade. It pulled back and I could get a trade off it, but it wouldn't give me much of a trade, and then it went higher. All right, so it came right back to my fractal zone. So for you that do not see that fractal zone, this is what we trade. We trade these fractal zones. And there it is. So when the market violated right here, you could have been in the trade to the downside. If you missed it, you trade the bounce back to the downside. You were entered here, and wouldn't have been a good, really good trade, because the market now moved to the upside. So we want to wait on price action to tell us what's happening here. We're inside our TK zone right here. So what we want to see is price bounce off of the cloud here. I mean, off of the Kijinsen here. All right. And if we get a Kijinsen bounce here, we trade that to the downside. Now we violated this fractal. So if I wasn't even looking at Ichimoku, because Ichimoku is giving me some different bias than what I'm seeing here, I would just trade this market to the upside. So now I would be looking at, I wouldn't even be looking at Ichimoku. And I'm going to trade levels. All right. So I'm going to look at this. I'm going to trade to that point first. Then I'm going to trade up to this level. But what I look at here is maybe the market's going to give me this. I would never see Kijinsen if I didn't have Ichimoku on here, and I would just be able to trade just these fractals. So maybe the market comes back and sits at this support level, because this is going to be support now, right? You had your zone here from your fractal, but then you violate this fractal, which now made you support there. So here was resistance, now it turned into support. It doesn't always do it exactly like that. So I want to see if the market's going to come here and sit. If the market can't close below that zone, then we'll probably see it move higher. And if this candle stays like it is, and then you get something, another candle a little small, you should get a fractal at this point. Therefore, when it violates that point again, that even gives you more confirmation, because you're not closing below that level and you're closing above this point, and search that market to go right up to that target there. All right, and that's what I'd be looking at, this daily time frame. So you got to think about that. That's daily also. So let's go to the 4 hour and look at it with and without Ichimoku. First, we'll look without, since we already have it off. So without gives you a lot of, you already could see what's happening here. We violated this fractal, so let's remove everything here, because we're now using the 4 hour fractal. And the 4 hour fractal will line up with the daily, but it has some different levels that you may see. So again, looking at this, and I'm going to put Ichimoku back on here so you get to understand that this is the fractal that we violated, and I'm going to make it into a zone. First, we got the violation, so we close above, right? That's what we want to see. So I made this into a zone. This is the fractal that we're looking at, right where I put this. So let me make sure everyone sees that. That fractal is right here. It has a wick on it. I made it a zone. All right, that's all I did. The market already violated right here with this candle. And then the market already pulled back with that candle. We're late to the market because you had a rejection back at the zone right here. See this candle? It never closed below the zone. It closed right at the top of it. And the market made a nice long wick. That was an indication, entry right here. Stop loss here, you would have had trade up to this point. Now the market's looks like it's trying to come back, so I'm going to wait to see if it'll come back to this level again and give me another trade to the upside. In order for me to be wrong, it would have to violate this level, and a violation is a close below. So it'll close below my zone. So right now I'm going to look for a bounce off of my zone again. But if I don't get the bounce, I still know that we want to see a fractal develop up here, and then we could wait to see that fractal. When we violate that level, we know what the market's doing. But I do want, I'd feel better if I could see it get back to this point, because that'll give me a higher probability trade. I see that level, and then boom. So let's put Ichimoku on here. Man, it's bedtime for some of you. I'm keeping you guys up. So all right, so with Ichimoku here, it's going to give me some different ideas. Now, I still have the same idea about the bounce, but what's good here is we could trade like this now. So we missed this bounce with the rejection here, so we may not see it come out all the way back to to this level again. All right, so if it doesn't, and I prefer it not to, because if it does, then more than likely we're going to be sideways for a while. I prefer it to come back to the key to your Tenkan-sen right here. So we'll be looking for the bounce off of the Tenkan-sen. All right, so you get a setup off of the bounce off of the Tenkan-sen. So it could be 2, 3, 4 candles from now. Who knows? Maybe another candle, and then you get another one bouncing off of this level, and then trade to the upside. You'll get a fractal up here. You'll violate that point. You'll know that you're good, and you won't violate this level. And this level also lines up with your Kijinsen here. All right, so that's going to be your support right there, and you're going to trade that to the upside, and there's going to be some levels that are going to give us an issue here. Now, I set my support and resistance levels, all right, and that's going to be the targets that I shoot for, but also I like to make sure I get through levels too. So I like to see price action at a level when I'm taking a trade, when I'm in a trade, sorry, and I want to see price action tell me that you're going to get through these levels. This flat top here is going to be a problem, but it looks like we got to get through that flat top. So what I do, if I enter a trade down here, or even off of the bounce here, so say we get a trade, market does this. Say the market comes down, we get a bounce off of Tenkan-sen right here, and we trade. I'm not going to take my profit here. Now you could set a profit and take some of it, but what I do, I like to wait to see what price action says, because if price action shows me it's going through that level, then I won't take my trade. I won't take off my trade, and I'll move my stop loss up to that level after price violates. All right, and then I'm going to free trade there, and then market keep moving, I'll move it above that level, and then I'll just seek out my overall level that I got from the daily, which would be this top level up here. Now you know I'm not always going to make it to those top levels, but at least I have targets that I set that I look to hit. All right, so that's going to be looking at the New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Really like this one coming up. Could be something there. US dollar CAD, we talked about this one yesterday, and when we talked about it, we said, if I told you guys, you could see where I boxed it in. Okay, we had it boxed in, and then it violated the box. I told you if we violate the box, let the market tell you which way it's going. It violated the box. We had a Kumo breakout, looking to the downside. So where's the target? Where's the market more likely going to move to? Maybe at least to this support level down here, right here. And if it violates, then I'll look for the next level. This is sloppy support and resistance levels. So I'm going to go to the 4-hour time frame and look at this. So we got a couple more pairs, just 2 more pairs, and then we're out. Okay. So what I told guys, we had this when we had this last session, we boxed this in, and I told people, because we weren't sure, I said this looks really strong to the downside, right? Because you had a TK crossover that's bearish, you had your future was bearish, but look at the angulation of Tenkan-sen and Kijinsen. You don't want to trade against that, so you want to follow that. So at the time we didn't have the trade, but then we violated here. I said box this thing in. If you get the violation, you get the trade, you trade to the downside. So you guys should have been into that trade already and trading it down to this level that we said. So that was what we're looking at here. Now, what did I tell you? Get pullbacks to your Tenkan-sen. We didn't quite get it to the level where I wanted it. I wouldn't have been, only part I would have looked at this trade here. I didn't get a good pullback to my level. So now I really don't see a trade right now on this pair. You may get a pullback, and then maybe you could get a pullback bounce off of your Tenkan-sen. I think your target's going to be down here. So let me go back to the daily really quick. Yeah, so you may not get much. You're going to get down to this level, but you may not get much of a entry off of the 4 level to set you up. I like to get a setup, even though I feel like I feel the market may move to that level. I still want to get a good setup. All right. So we're talking about price violating this bull fractal here. If it violates this bull fractal, then we would say, well, we're going to move to the upside. Well, no, not quite right here, because we got something sitting next to us. What do we got? We got Kijins in here. So maybe the market pulls back to this level. Then we look for the trade to the downside. So mark that zone on your chart and then look for the market to pull back in this area, or if we get a bounce off of Tinkinson. Now you're still going to need a price action entry either here or here, and then we trade this back to the downside. So that's a good setup developing, but not quite ready yet. All right. So hang on for that, because that's another opportunity that we see. We'll have to post those into the chat, into the forum. So US dollar CAD, I have 2 more pairs, and then that's it. I took Ichimoku off of here because this was sideways. I told last time we got together, I told you this might be the top here. So that's why I made that level, and that was the top, and the market continued to drop to the downside. The market moved up to that top and then dropped. Well, when I was looking at this on the 4-hour time frame at the time, the 4-hour looked really good. All right, and you could see you had a bounce off of that level and the market dropped to the downside. Let's go back to the daily. Daily just sets me up for, if I'm not trading the daily, now sometimes I'm trading the daily depending on the fractal breaks and the setups, but I'm really trading the 4-hour time frame. But I get a lot of the bias from the daily, because that daily is going to tell me a lot. I see the sideways move, or I see a move to the downside. I see the fractal breaks. The strongest fractal that you're going to follow is your daily fractal. All right, so if you follow the direction of your daily fractal, you're pretty safe, but it's a big level. So therefore, you trade in the 4-hour, you just follow your 4-hour if you want to trade like that. Now let's put Ichimoku back on here, and then we have one more pair to look at. And then guys, I won't keep you anymore. Love this pair to the downside. Not as much as my other pair, but you could see we had a fractal break. This was kind of sideways here, little move up and then sideways in the fractal break. Nothing, we couldn't break this top here. We got some volatility here. So I would look at this move to the downside, at least to the cloud here and to this level, and see if we could get through that. So the market could probably move to the flat bottom there, and you'll see the market move down to this point. And then it'll probably pull back, and then you'll see it violate, and you have a good trade to the downside. Now, I'm not nothing set up yet. All right, so we had a big rejection here. I don't know if this was news or not, don't recall. So with that big wick and how far that fractal is, I would never make that big zone. I wouldn't make that zone. That's too big. So I just leave that fractal alone and just wait for the market to give me a little bit more indication of what's happening. So I'm going to go to the 4-hour time frame. And I like the 4-hour time frame. You could see, let's go back to this. Let's remove this. All right, so you violate this fractal here, and really you violated this one, but you didn't get a pullback really to violate. So I'm marking this fractal. So if I mark this fractal, right, and I say, guys, trade the fractal breaks, I would have traded this break right here. This is the break I would have traded, and I would have put it in. I would have put this level, looking for the market to come back to that point and trade again to the downside. It didn't reach that level, but it reached this fractal level right here. This one I don't love because it's a double fractal next to each other without the pullback move really. But you can see if you mark that level, then you already see where the market comes, sits, bounces, and then you had a trade to the downside again. That's why I'm telling you guys that these fractals are so important to you. So most traders don't even look at the fractals, right? Don't even pay attention to them, don't even know what they are. And you can see, even if I mark that level, you could see how much support and resistance that is too. You could see it. It's a nice level. And you already know the level because you're looking at fractals. And if you just look at fractals, it sets up everything for you. All right, so I like this trade, but I want to see where we're going to pull back to. So I'm going to, first I'm going to put this level here for a pullback, but I want to put Ichimoku on here to get a better feel for where I could get a pullback. All right, so you got a crossover. This kind of sideways a little bit. Too many crossovers. Ichimoku doesn't do real good justice, but the market's starting to move. So maybe we get a pullback to Tenkan-sen. So watch for a Tenkan-sen bounce because you just had the crossover. What happens, guys, after the crossover, TK crossover? Get a crossover, and you got about 10 candles, up to 10 candles or so, you're going to get before you get back to that Tenkan-sen again. And then that's where you look for a trade back to the downside. Or if you get back inside that TK zone, you may get a bounce off of Tenkan-sen or off the top of the flat Kijun-sen. All right, you do have resistance here also with the cloud. So this kind of, everything's kind of bunched in together here. So look for a pullback of this level. I don't think we're going to have a trade this week with this, but you may get a pullback here. Then the market drop to the downside. It may just pull back to this fractal level too. So keep an eye on this. You don't have anything yet. You got time for this. US dollar, Swiss franc. All right, so my last pair. This is a pair that we really should have been keen on, guys, because we talked about this setup the other day, and definitely this was a good setup. We look at this on a daily time frame. Why? Because the market was sideways. We found a top, just like the current pair, the other pair we looked at. We found a top. So we knew that this was strong resistance up here, and the market had yet to reach that point on the 4-hour. So when we looked at the 4-hour, now the entry was hard. That was the problem here. But guys, remember, when we set a zone and we make a zone like this, we can walk that zone, all right? Because a lot of times I would put an entry at a range level with a stop loss above that. But if I can sit here and watch the market, then I'm going to walk the zone, right? So we'll do a zone walk trade, and then we can catch a trade to the downside because price never went higher than our level. All right, so we were inside our range, our zone here. When we talked about this, guys, price was here. And I told you to watch for the bounce here because you're going to get a trade to the downside, and you could trade it down to this level here. Well, you got that. The entry wasn't easy to find, though, because there was two things. When the market got here, my main thing, I would want my entry right here. But then we could have did a zone walk. Why? Because if I already set an entry here and this candle opened, it started moving higher. Well, until it violates that zone, I'm going to walk my trade up. So I start out here. The market moves higher. If the market moves, let's make a green line as the market. I'm showing people who don't understand the zone walk when you have support and resistance levels. We make that green. So this is the market. If we're watching, we have to be watching to do this. So this is the candle. After we get that indecision at resistance, then we probably definitely thinking short. And I was watching this in bed because I was laying there and I saw this and I said, I want to get a better entry and get that zone walk. So the market was up here. We already put our entry here. This is where we should have put our entry. All right. And then where we're going to put, when that market moves higher, we move higher. So now we put it at the bottom of the zone, but the market moved even higher. So now we could put it at the top of the candle here, our entry. Our stop loss is going to be at this level, but then the market moved even higher. If that market gets all the way up to that top there, move your entry to the middle of that zone, which is stop loss right here. And then we could have been in this trade, and we said we would trade to this point. This was our trade level. So go back and look at that video and you'll see exactly how we wanted to look at this. We had these levels marked already, but people probably didn't pay attention to this here. So guys, we know all the aspects of getting into a trade. We know the price action that we need. We know the levels. We know the stop losses. We know the targets. We just have to be aware. We have to see these things when it's happening. And that's where some people have a hard time seeing it while it's happening. But you just be patient and you'll see a lot of these develop. All right, so let's put Ichimoku on here to see what we see now. I don't see anything right now. I'm looking at maybe bouncing off of this level and back to the downside to get to here. But I don't really have a trade that I like. The trade was up here. That's where the trade was. That's where we wanted to enter. So just because we miss a trade, we don't make a trade. We didn't get a trade. All right, now Ichimoku, maybe we get a pullback, right? So where are we going to look for our entry? So now we missed this. If the market's ranging to the downside and it's going to continue, maybe we get a pullback to Tenkan-sen, so we'll get a Tenkan-sen bounce. So we'll see if price could bounce off of this Tenkan-sen here. We'll get a pullback to that level. Currently, we don't have a setup. We'll be at this level, bounce off of that level. Now we are sitting at this, let me mark this. We are sitting at this level. Why do I have this level here? Let's see what I've marked that for. That's not a level that I should be having on my chart. Okay, yeah, that's not a level that I need. I just marked that for, I believe that was our target. Our target was down here. This was our main target. But I put that as one target because you could see where it's a little bit of resistance there, then a big candle break on resistance. And it takes big candles to violate support and resistance levels. You don't usually see candles just fool around at that level. That means you're probably not going to break. But when you break, look how big that is. Look how big that is. So we pull back to that level and you probably see it drop. All right. And you had the first break here, guys. This is the big sign. The first fractal break right here, right, with a big candle. The market's going to the downside. Volatility, you'll see this drop to the downside. And I even put this level here. All right. So this will be a zone that we want to look at taking the market bouncing off of. So that could be a target for us. So we could still get an entry here because we pulled back to this level. Now this is daily. So let me go to the 4 hour, see if we could. We're kind of bouncing on that level. I want to see a better price action entry to get off of this level. I'd love to see it really bounce off of that level off of our Tenkan-sen. So I don't have a setup yet. So just be patient because we probably will have a setup on this and we'll send out an alert for that trade and we'll set that up. All right, but that's it. That's going to be the end of this. So what I'm going to do real quick, for those of you that are new here and aren't members and just came because I sent out an email, I'm going to show you really quickly the site that if you did become a member, what you would look at and get. All right, so this is the site here, and a lot of people sometimes have a hard time understanding how to do things here. But what you do basically, guys, members area shows you the forecast that I just did. What we just did today, I do this every week, and it will be posted right here. So it's posted in here. If you're a member, you could click that and go in there. Or else you see my trade setups. This is where I post the trade setups, and this is where educational videos are. Plus we have a forum. Click that and you'll see a lot more information, a ton of information. Most of the stuff is in there. Then we have a blog. I haven't been real active on the blog, but I'm going to post stuff here. This will be posted on the blog, and so it'll be posted on YouTube too. Then I have FX Vibe, which is another blog. Then I have my services. But if you really like this and you want to become a member, basically right now I still have this listed, but I'm getting ready to get rid of it because membership is $500 a year. All right, per year, $500. But right now I just have this holiday special as $250. I didn't take it away yet. $250 for the year, and you get all this stuff. You get the all the stuff that I just showed you. You get this weekly forecast live like we're doing here, and you get the chat room, the member notification, the forum. All right, so you still could get it for this price right now. I'm going to take this down probably in the next day or two. And then also you get, I'm going to show you how to get to the courses. You'll get the courses too. You log in. So I have to log in here to get the stuff. And then put your password in. This is how you log in when you're a member. All right. And if you're not logged in, you can't get into the courses in the members area. You have to be logged in. So I wouldn't be able to get in there right now. It'll tell me that I have to purchase it to get in there. And sometimes what people do, they want to purchase the course, right? Or they purchase the membership. And what they do sometimes is they've already made an account, which is basically an account is just that you registered for my site and you have a username, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't get you into the members area or the courses. I mean, you could get in there, but you won't see anything. You won't be able to get in the members area. But now that I logged in, I can get into all of this stuff. So if I wanted to get to the courses, guys, I just go here. And whichever course I want to look at or take, I just take. I'm going to show you how the courses go really quickly. So this page has to load up. But what it does, I have the high probability price action video course. You have the Ichimoku Advanced Japanese Techniques course. You have the Ichimoku Online video course, the live 1 week Ichimoku Interactive training session. That was a training session that lasted for a week, so you could log into there. And then the 7-day market forecast, you don't really get it here. There's only one in there. Most of them are going to be this forecast like I just did tonight will be posted right here. Weekly market forecast videos, then trade setups, blah, blah, blah. All right. So if I wanted to get into the course, and this is the most popular course because it has everything, but you could take all the courses because the membership will give you all these courses. I would click on here, and I'm going to show you just how the courses look. So I would click on here. All right, and I already finished the course, but once you click on here, and I have more information than you guys because I'm the admin person. It says finished course, but I'm going to go back to the course. When I go back to the course, I could click on anything here and watch any video I want now because I already finished the course. So these are the videos and then the quizzes. So I've already taken the quiz and the videos. So what if I wanted to go back and watch something? The best way is you click here. This will be price action, signals, and triggers. You click there, and then it'll show you the video. You watch the video. All right, so the page has to load up a little bit slow sometimes, but it loads up. You watch the video. That's the price action, trigger, signals, and triggers. And then when you're done, if you didn't do this already, you proceed to the quiz. All right, so the quiz loads up. I already did the quiz, so what you would do here, it would say take quiz. You would have to click there and take the quiz. Now, if you don't want to, you have to take the quiz or you won't be able to move on. And you have to get a 70 or 75, depending on which course it is, to move on. And then you click next to go to the next unit. Sometime when you just click here, it doesn't go for you. So click next unit. Use this guide here to get to where you really want. Once you're inside the course, that'll help you out better. All right, and then you could go, you see all the things that this has. Here's your fractals, trading Ichimoku with fractals, trading Ichimoku with support and resistance, trading Ichimoku with multiple time frame analysis, trading Ichimoku with divergence, and then the divergence quiz. I don't know why that's not showing up properly. I got to check that. And then I have the trading Ichimoku with Heikin-Ashi, and I don't have a quiz for that right now. Didn't put a quiz for that. All right, so there's a bunch of stuff. Your risk management, all about Ichimoku, price action signals and triggers, TK crossover trade strategy, Ichimoku Kumo breakout strategy, and Kijinsen bounce and Kijinsen break strategy, and then everything else that we just already looked at. And then if I wanted to, I'd just go to another course. Click courses, you go. Now there's going to be free courses also, guys. So if you're not a member, and I have some free courses in here, it'll say free on here, and you just click it and you could take it. It's going to be just a basic course, but you could go to the high probability price action course now, or else go to one of these courses, and that's how you get along. But if you're interested in becoming a member again, click here, and this will be up for a couple of days. And I'm not pressed to get members. I just want to build this community, but I have tons of members. It doesn't bother me if I never got another member, because the people that I have, I'm dedicated to each and every one of them and give them my all. So this is how you become a member, though. All right, so that's going to be it. Do I have any questions right now? I'll answer any questions on some stuff, and then I'll get out of here. I'll give you a couple minutes. Let's see. Where can we find the information about how, okay, so I already answered that for you, Ben. Two candle back, I like that. We'll remember it. Yes, W3 hooking me up too. I see you there, partner. If you want to email me about the forum, Ben, it's going to be chaostrader63 at FX at one glance. Yeah, there you go. W3 posted it already. What settings on the daily? For which? I don't understand what you mean, what settings. Hey, thank you, Gary, for that. Appreciate that. And then Sunny needs to be validated in the forum. I'll take care of your validation for you. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate you. Okay, so I tried to answer some of these questions. I don't want to keep everyone here just sitting here looking at nothing. So I'm going to, somebody said they don't receive updates. If you're a member, you will receive updates. Okay, let me show you that. Okay, this is the forum. This is the chat room, not the forum. All right, so here's our member chat room. But this is the update here. So if you join Telegram, every time I post something, you will get this update here to your phone. So if you want to get updates for the trade alerts, you could get those here too, because I'm going to post them all here and it'll come right to your phone. And it's quicker that way. I feel like if I post them here, you get it right like I guess it's a text message, and you'll get that really quickly. You'll be able to get the video and see everything before it happens. You'll be able to get into the trade. Um, then I post it in the forum, and then in the you'll see it in the chat room and stuff and all over everywhere else. But it takes longer if I don't post it here first, because by the time you get it, if you're waiting on email, who knows when you look at your email. But if you get it from here with the you have to join. If you haven't joined Telegram yet, then you have to join Telegram. Then you have to let me know that you need to be updated. Now, if you're not a member, I'm not gonna add you to this list. All right, so that's what you got to get there. And I think I've answered everything. Yes, I answered everything. I see some questions I really don't have much time to get to. But yeah, guys, I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys. I mean, again, I always tell you guys, it's not anything that I do. It's everything that you guys do, because if I didn't have you guys, I'd be sitting here talking to myself like a dummy, and I look crazy. My wife come in the room and be like, "Who are you talking to?" And she think I'm crazy, probably leave me. But I have you guys to talk to and to explain everything to, and it's all because of you guys that everything is possible. All right. So thank you again. Appreciate you guys. Look for this. This will be posted throughout the site and on YouTube. So thank you guys for being members, and thank you for the visitors. Appreciate you guys. Have a great one. God bless. So long.